Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to SUPERSTAT, the podcast where we stay curious, we stay scientific, and of course, we talk with leaders who are helping move our laboratory profession forward. Today, Melody, Aaron, and myself are having a conversation about leadership, about change, accreditation, and the future of laboratory medicine. And these are topics that, as you know, if you listen to this podcast, we deeply care about for every laboratorian and every healthcare leader and all of our frontline professional friends. So we are honored today to welcome Nancy Stratton. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Commission of Laboratory Accreditation, or COLA. Nancy brings more than 40 years of experience leading clinical laboratory organizations with a career rooted in quality accreditation, regulatory excellence, and organizational performance. What makes her perspective especially for our podcast, especially meaningful is that she began her career as a medical laboratory scientist, and bringing and giving her that leadership lens forefront in understanding the critical role of laboratory professionals and the role that we play in patient care and diagnosis is extremely helpful for all of us as we continue to move forward in this new dynamic in healthcare and our profession, advocacy, etc. Nancy, I mean, I could read your bio forever. I mean, you've accomplished so many great things during your tenure at Kohler in particularly, and with the milestones during the COVID-19 pandemic, being the founder of the Workforce Action Alliance, and really just bringing leaders together to address the urgent issues that the laboratory is currently facing. So we really want to thank you first and foremost, before we get started, of joining the SuperStat podcast and sharing your vision for COLA and your thoughts on accreditation and how we can all continue to do our part to support this profession and strengthen patient care. So I'll just jump right into it. To begin, Nancy, what do you think, or I'll ask it this way, when you look back on COLA's mission in this moment particularly, what feels most important to you in your role as CEO? And how has your leadership approach shaped the way that COLA supports laboratories in this dynamic period in healthcare?
Well, Stephanie, Melody, and Aaron, thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast. It's quite a privilege for me to be on this podcast. The three of you just joined us at our Laboratory Enrichment Forum last month. You were a huge hit. We appreciate it so much. I love everything that you're doing within the laboratory industry. Thank you so much for all the kind words. And to answer your question, I want to start with what our mission statement is. COLA Inc. is a physician-directed organization whose purpose is to promote health and safety through accreditation and educational programs. And that's a pretty simplistic statement, but it is so powerful. I mean, that we want to promote health and safety all through accreditation and education. And what a great way for us to do that. We abide by it through all of our discussions. Anytime we have major decisions, we go back and reflect on the mission statement. And what stands out to me most is that we are non-punitive. We don't go in with the attitude that we know everything. We go in to help laboratories work towards high-quality laboratory results because that's who we are and that's what we do. We're informed, we're educational, and our goal is to be a main part of healthcare, which is what the laboratory industry is. You know, when you're overseeing laboratories, we call it surveys. Other people may call it inspections, but we do surveys with our surveyors. There needs to be direct discussions. We don't want to put the laboratories on edge. We don't want it to be a guarded discussion. We want to be able to talk with them about their processes and how they can improve things. The strength of my team is their extensive knowledge, their experience, the extensive training that we do within COLA. We use subject matter experts, and as you alluded to, we have a very collaborative approach, and that is important to me. We are all better when we work together. Our surveyors benefit from the expertise of others because of these relationships. And when I look at our surveying team today, I see many years of experience, knowledge, And I see newer surveyors who come in with the knowledge and expertise of the emerging technologies that have come through the last several years. And I know that we can benefit laboratories because our surveyors are dedicated, their leaders are dedicated, and it's that dedication and commitment to high quality laboratory results for healthcare that drives our organization.
I, as a quality person, I love to hear the culture of safety right at the top, the collaborative, wanting to make things better, not putting the lab on the spot, making sure that they're part of the process. I loved hearing that directly from the top.
Thank you. We work on that. We have a lot of discussions with our team. We have monthly organizational meetings, and topics like customer service come up in those meetings as well. How we are perceived and what we can give back to the industry is very important to us.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I can attest to this, like, personally. I've been on the receiving end of it with cola. I mean, when I was helping with the laboratory, and it's been a while, but that was had some remediation work to do. And I found that surveyor who came on site was just really knowledgeable, but also really gracious, but also really clear with the staff and like, hey, your leadership is doing XYZ and this is where you need to be plugged in, right? And like really helped the staff understand, which I thought was really interesting because I hadn't had typically when you're in, those post meetings, the staff's not always there. And so to make a point to include the staff, I felt was really kind of cool.
Oh,
At least that was like my experience in it.
thank you for
And
sharing. That's so
yeah,
good to hear.
yeah, it was really neat. I was like, oh, man, that kind of really liked that they were there, like, to say like, this is the part that involves you, I'm like Erin's saying from a quality, it's really important that everybody's on the quality page. So like when you stepped into the role at Cola and the CEO role, what stood out to you the most about where Cola was historically and where do you think it has the potential to go? Like, how do you see the future?
Well, I cannot believe I'm coming up on my 8th year anniversary with COLA. I love this organization. I love what we stand for. I love what we do. And they say time flies when you're having fun. Well, time has really flown. This is a wonderful organization. We have accomplished quite a lot during those 8 years. And to have staff who are willing to work so hard continually has been amazing. I have to reiterate, though, that COLA staff makes COLA the fantastic organization that we are. Again, there is so much strength, knowledge, and expertise among our staff. COLA was ready to expand specialties when I came on, but we needed to obtain deemed status from CMS in the areas we didn't have deemed status in yet. And we have now accomplished that. Now we have taken our time. We have received training. We've worked with subject matter experts. Now we can accredit laboratories of all sizes and all specialties with the subject matter expertise that is so important going into laboratories. We provide surveyors as individuals or as teams, whatever's needed by that laboratory, ensuring that we have the proper expertise at the lab. We also make sure that we have adequate support for all the surveyors during the survey. So they have their leaders that they can reach out to and they can get answers if they need something looked up. We have specific tools out there for them to know information on the different kind of equipment or reagents that are being used. But getting us to the point where we can work with all laboratories of all sizes and specialties, that's an accomplishment that we're very proud of and that we all celebrate.
So you mentioned some big turning points with CMS and getting some different subspecialties. And as someone that's done external inspections, it's nice to have that group of people to go back to as well to have that backing. But looking at other moments, big turning points in the cola evolution, are there any other moments that have kind of stood out as moments that have kind of shaped cola in your mind, and then even how cola is shaping healthcare today?
So the pandemic comes to mind first and foremost. It clearly demonstrated the resiliency of our entire COLA team. We had dedication throughout for high quality laboratory results. Yes, I say that phrase repeatedly because that's what we strive for. And it's paramount to healthcare. We stayed with a priority through virtual surveys, which was not always an easy thing to do. Laboratories had more work to do, surveyors had more work to do. You lost the ability to walk into a laboratory and feel the laboratory. You had to do everything virtually, surveys, but we're very glad we don't have to continue doing that. Our surveyors were chomping at the bit to get back out into the laboratories, and we were working with the facilities to make sure they wanted outsiders to come in. We were working with the laboratorians to make sure they were staffed to have people come in for the inspection. But it just showed that we are very flexible and we were able to adapt to the environment. When you look at the laboratory industry today compared to just 5 years ago, the number of changes that have occurred since the pandemic is amazing. We are ever changing. It is our responsibility to be able to be flexible enough to keep up with the change. Working with the workforce shortage is another area that really stands out because we founded the Workforce Action Alliance. We work with Clinical Lab 2.0, which looks to the future of the laboratory's role in healthcare. And we continue to have collaborations with different organizations. And in that, we feel we have positioned ourselves to be included in very important discussions, contribute where we can contribute, and then streamline our operations to meet the needs of the laboratories.
The adaptability with the virtual surveying, I'm glad we're back to in person with that extra connection, but to be able to adapt like that is always important. And then the Workforce Alliance, I've got a mentor of mine, Dr. Diane Halstead, and she loves being a part of the Workforce Alliance, and she's in high schools and working through trying to get the next generation in. So Cola's doing a lot of great things.
Thank you.
Yes, Nancy, and you kind of alluded to this over the past 5 years and even stretching back the 8 years you've been at Cola, there's been so many changes in lab medicine and healthcare altogether. These workforce shortages, I mean, it's so well documented and it seems to be an infinite problem, but so much work being done around it to really support that pathway and those pipelines into our profession, new technology. I know Melanie's done very many talks and wrote a lot of manuscripts and papers and a lot of literature on AI and digital pathology and all of the changes coming into our workforce. And then, Lab 2.0 and even the talk that we did at COLA about lab cares and just the different healthcare models. And so from your perspective, looking at all the shifts that have happened over the number of years, what has the greatest impact to laboratories that you are serving, and where do you see COLA kind of filling that need?
Well, I have to refer back to the Workforce Action Alliance, or WAA is what we call it. That collaboration has been very rewarding. And if you go to cola.org, our website, you can see proceedings documents from previous meetings that we've had. You can see what has been accomplished. You can see the current initiatives, and you can see the national organizations involved in the alliance. The other really cool thing about this is on our website, there's a toolkit that can be used for people to inspire younger students to go into the laboratory field. It breaks it down to different ages. I know inspiring younger people is something that is near and dear to your hearts, and I applaud you on all of your efforts. The book, the way you promote laboratories is just wonderful. New technology, that's something that is here. We cannot be afraid to change. We have to learn new things. Something we've been doing differently is if you looked at our workforce 10 years ago compared to now, you'll see a little shift in the age. And I'm not saying anything bad about people my age being surveyors, but people who have grown up with the newer technologies, who have worked the bench, who know the ins and outs of the newer technologies. That's important to have surveyors go in who really know what it means and they know what to look for in those methods. Different care models. Well, that's another reason why we have to collaborate with other organizations. We have to talk to congressional staff, congressmen and women when we can, just to understand what's going on so we can bring responses to the laboratories when they ask questions, or better yet, We can lead the laboratories with our information and knowing how to be nimble to make the changes that are necessary.